We are staying up. Say we are staying up. We are staying up. Say we are staying up. West Ham United FC. Another season in the Premier League. What a huge achievement for the club. Ignore the previous European campaigns. We're back to the Hammers, the Claret and Blue Army, the West Ham United FC that we've all been used to for so long, scrabbling around at the bottom half of the table, being absolutely delighted when we stay in the league rather than all those rubbish, boring old days when we were planning European away trips and battling for European places at the top of the Premier League. I'm Will Pugh, and this is the We Are West Ham podcast. I'm joined, as ever, by my mate, my business partner, and all-round West Ham United brain, James Jones. Jonesy, 3-2 defeat away at Brighton, late collapse. It had everything, didn't it, for a classic West Ham United game in the 24-25 campaign. That grim run against Brighton goes on. I know we have actually broken the curse 4 games ago now. That we actually beat the Seagulls, but still it makes it one win in an otherwise bleak, grim, diabolical spell against the Seagulls. Just none of it really matters anymore, does it? It's annoying. It's just like classic. It's like they couldn't even give the travelling, die-hard, loyal away fans something to smile about. A day out on the seaside towards the end of the season against the Brighton team who were struggling as well. Soucek goal, what a good couple of Bowen assists. Even Mohamed Kudus deemed to get on the score sheet for the first time in God knows how long. Couldn't even do that, James. Couldn't even give him a nice day out. What the hell? Sums up the season, does it not?
It definitely sums up the season. It's. I'm lost for words, mate, if I'm honest. Like, I know last week I said that I was kind of apathetic towards the rest of the season and kind of just had lost any care towards what happens. But there was something about the way that we capitulated at the end of that game on Saturday that really, really, really angered me. Like, we went 1-0 down and I was like, no, I expected that. It is what it is. And then to see us go in the second half, go 2-1 up, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Are we going to win this? It's unbelievable. And then
did you actually say that to yourself, though?
Yeah, like I did, because I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I wasn't watching the game. I should have whispered that, really. And I know that.
Yeah, you know the score.
I wasn't watching, but I was keeping an eye on the score and I was keeping an eye on the stats, kind of looking at the balance of play that it was going at. And I was like, okay, it doesn't look like we're being outplayed here. Okay, we scored 2 goals. Brilliant. It looks like we're in the game. Now, people that watch the game will probably tell me otherwise, but it looks like we're in it. So at 2-1, you go, with 5 minutes to go, you go, oh, lovely. We're probably going to win this now. And then they equalise and you go, oh, well, that's a little bit annoying. I've seen that happen so many times before where we concede a late equaliser. Oh, well, a point at Brighton, not the end of the world. And then they get another one. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, how have you done that? How is that a thing? Why have you allowed that to happen? That is not acceptable. So I got really, really upset about it. I was like, no, I can't believe even in a time of sheer apathy, they've still managed to anger me.
I think that's what it was.
I don't understand how they've managed to do that. It's almost impossible.
They could tell, mate. They were like, oh, no one seems to care about this season, actually. So we got to change that. Rather than just get a 1-1 forgettable draw and get a point on the board, at least give the fans something to cheer about.
Or hold on to a 2-1 lead with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, we'll lure them into a false sense of security here that they might actually be able to squeeze the tiniest modicum of enjoyment from a game towards the end of this utterly dire, forgettable crap campaign. We'll make them think that. We'll make it one of their fan favourites to score what looks like it's going to be the winner as well, with Super Tomas Soucek, a second assist for in the game for their main man, their favourite player, Jarrod Bowen. Against an old team, nice day out in the sunshine. We'll lure them into thinking that. and then we'll go, "Hey, unlucky," and then we'll just throw it all away and let Brighton score 2 in the last minute, because that they thought they didn't care, but that will teach them that they actually, and that'll make them absolutely fuming when they thought they didn't give a stuff. It's just I mean, it's tragic, really, isn't it? It's just tragic, especially as Brighton are such a bad run of form as well. So just a reminder for anyone who didn't watch it or hasn't, been able to drag themselves into watching it. Yassin Ayari opened the scoring with, to be fair, an absolute screamer. Total lackadaisical shutdown from Lucas Paqueta, but who's surprised. 13 minutes opened the scoring, 1-0 down at half time. Mohamed Kudus, great assist from Jared Bowen, makes it 1-0 just 3 minutes into the second half, and after stand was doing what is now universally known as doing a James Jones, and getting a beer down in the concourse still just 3 minutes into the second half. And then, super Tomas Soucek, great cross from Bowen from deep, careering in at the back post, thunders the ball behind the Brighton goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen. Cue jubilant scenes in the away end. Then total classic West Ham United, and sort of the thing I think that Fulkrug was quite angry about after the Southampton game, and probably what we're led to believe was what kept him out of the starting lineup. He ended up coming on at half time, but just to teach him a bit of a lesson there, what use that is at this stage of the season. We haven't got any strikers, God knows. And then Matoma drifts in at the back post when we've got sort of basically all 11 players on the edge of our own box. And then Carlos Baleba, all right, it is a decent finish, to be fair, and we have been Graham Potter made the point after the game, didn't he, that we have been undone by 2 pretty elite level goals from distance. But again, it's like, anyone fancy shutting him down, Baleba? 92 minutes on the clock. Anyone fancy it? Nah, just let him bend one in then. Areola, fancy diving? Nah, just gonna stand there, watch it go. What most annoyed you, James? What annoyed you most about the whole thing? Because it's pretty just pathetic and tragic, isn't it? I've really had it with this season, in case you can't tell.
Well, having watched the goals back, the first thing that stood out to me with the winner, a couple, I've mentioned this on Twitter, and a couple, one or two fans called me out on it, but I noticed that Areola doesn't dive and then starts punching the air and start having a pop at the defenders. Presumably, he's like, why haven't you closed him down? And immediately, my thought wasn't, why haven't you closed him down? It was, why haven't you tried to save that, Areola? If you've dived and you haven't been able to get there and it's hit the top corner and it's like, okay, fair enough. At least he tried to save it. Just watched it go past him. Go on. Don't think that's going to go in. Oh, hang on, it has gone in. That's a shame. It's all your fault, the defenders. And immediately I was like, and he starts punching me. I was like, well, if you actually made those arm movements while the ball was coming past you, you may have saved it, mate. But you've waited until after and then started punching the air. And I was just a bit like, well, that's just really annoyed me. And a couple of people were like, oh, you're not going to call out Bowen for not chasing him down? And I watched it again and was like, yeah, I could do that, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to die on this hill now that Areola is at fault.
Yeah, but I've said it aloud once.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back on my word, but I do take the point that, should have been closed down. The fact that 2 goals have been scored in that fashion without being closed down in one game just isn't good enough. It's just the mentality. Like, we've dropped 7 points in the last 6 games to late equalisers. Or late goals. And
just think, James, as well, if we'd got them 7 points, we would have been the heady heights of 13th.
Exactly. It's mental. But this is the thing, though, right? The whole narrative around the football club around Graham Potter would be so much different, because currently we're on a run of 7 games without a win, but instead that would be one defeat in 10, I think it would be. And it's like, everyone would be like, oh, okay, we're ending the season relatively strongly, looking forward to the summer. Now we're ending the season absolutely terribly. Thank God there's 3 teams that have already been relegated. Looking forward to the summer, not because we see who we're going to sign, it's so we can have a break. Thanks very much.
So we can have a break.
So like the whole narrative would be so much different if we'd have held on against Liverpool, if we'd have beaten Southampton, if we'd have held on against Brighton, even
I think it would have
Bournemouth.
been a bit different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like
No, you're
Everton.
probably right.
Everton, late equaliser at Goodison Park. The Wolves won. No, we lost that 1-0 for first half goal. Fine.
Yeah.
Bournemouth 1-0 down, 2-1 up, 80th minute equaliser. Liverpool got back into the game at 1-0 and then 90th minute equaliser.
Yeah.
Southampton 93rd minute equaliser. 2-1 up with 5 minutes to go and get Brighton, lose 3-2. Like, if those late goals aren't conceded, the whole narrative is very, very different around the football club and around the fan base. And Potter isn't kicking off after the game saying he doesn't want to talk about the positives. And I understand why he was saying that. Why would you? Because at the moment, the only positives is that we're not conceding as many as we were under Lopetegui. We're not getting absolutely battered every single week. We've only lost by two clear goals once since Potter came in.
That Lopetegui thing's like saying, no, my boat's not letting on quite as much water as the Titanic was. So
we've gone from being slightly harder to beat than before, but at the same time, making it very, very hard to win as well. And it's just, that's why I understand when Potter's like, I don't want to talk about the positives, because at the moment, the positives mean nothing if we're not getting the results. And that's why the narrative would be so different if they just sort themselves out a little bit and just realise that there's still football to be played in the 93rd minute.
The funny thing is, it would be different, wouldn't it? Like, you know, we might disagree on the scale of the difference slightly, but ultimately, like, you're sort of right. You'd at least maybe go into the summer with a feeling of, oh, it's all right, there's a little bit of something there. And all right, 13th is still absolutely pants, given, you know, what we talked about at the beginning of the season. But a little bit of something to work with.
It would be, we finished 13th, but that's all really down to Lopetegui, right? Everyone would be going, well, you know.
Pretty much.
But now,
Potter's steadied the ship at least.
Now, the feeling is, oh, God, have we made the wrong decision again? I mean, I'm not thinking that. I do think he'll come good, but there's a lot of the fan base that are like, you can sack this geezer off as well. I think that's a little bit of an unfair view to have. But he's got to do something. He's got to change that, you know. And I understand why he kicked off after the game in his press conference, because that game underlines everything that Fulkrug said last week. He was absolutely bang on.
Yeah. I think it was a really weird one from Potter to sort of, I know we don't want to hark back a full week, but it was a really weird one from Potter to, like, excuse me, I'm even yawning during podcasts now. Honestly, mate. No, I just can't even sum it up there. What, I don't know. It's just so bad. You know what I think is interesting? And I know it was mullered by Lopetegui, right? But it's such a fall in standards, I think. And you know what? That's sort of what's sort of funny a little bit now, isn't it? Is that when under David Moyes, when at the beginning of last season, when I know we got loads of points and lots of people were saying the performances weren't great, blah, blah, blah. They weren't very aesthetically pleasing. But one thing we were doing was sort of winning ugly, wasn't it? And we were, and that's always one of those things that I talk about under David Moyes, West Ham became good at the unglamorous but almost imperceptible things, but that are absolutely vital that any football team has. And it might not be, you know, there might have been games, granted, where we might have been able to string 10 passes together and you're thinking, what the hell? But you could guarantee that at the end of the game, every player had done their 12 kilometres of running and their certain percentage of intense sprints and put a certain amount of blocks and tackles in. And it might never have been pretty, but then, and those are the things that at least keep you in the game and that stop games from being totally taken away from you within half an hour, which is more what we saw under Lopetegui, to be fair. Tottenham away springs to mind in particular. But so therefore, all right, it might need an ugly Tomas Soucek goal right at the death at somewhere like Burnley, but you're in a position to be able to do that. And it was a mentality thing, if nothing else, right? Style of football aside, the mentality thing was so hugely important. And it's just like, it's almost like those things are unfashionable in football these days. They're just important. Man City and Arsenal are scoring half their goals these days from set pieces. They're still kicking people up in the air and fouls, doing all the dark arts. And they just so happen when they get the ball to, be able to string a few passes together and play some decent football and put the ball in the back of the net. But you can't do all of that stuff without the grit and the determination and the mentality and the, Man City, when they've won their leagues, they didn't win all their games 5 or 6-0, did they? They won a lot of them, but they won a lot of them, a few against West Ham as well, with last-minute winners. And, that's what always got thrown at Manchester United, didn't it? And I find there just seems to have been a real collapse. And I guess in a way, that comes with being at a club where historically the expectations have been lower, where you do feel like you need players, you need people like Jared Bowen and your Soufals and your Souceks who've just got professional and personal pride that doesn't let them just go, whatever, this season's done. You don't get that with Kudus, you don't get that with Lucas Paqueta, you don't get that with Mavropanos, clearly. Lots of the players who are just like Alvarez strikes me as one of those as well, where it's just like they'll play for while it's going well and while there's money on the table and all that sort of thing. But like now, it just seems to have been a complete and utter collapse in standards at the club from what was gone before. And this isn't me going like boring everyone to tears saying David Moyes was the Messiah and he played amazing football. It's not that. It's just saying whoever the manager is, at any football club who wants to succeed, you need a base layer of mentality, effort, and a willingness to try your best at all times and do the hard, ugly, invisible stuff. As a minimum, as a bare minimum. Martin Noble would always talk about that, wouldn't he? That's a bare minimum. You don't come to, there's that famous clip of him talking to the youth team. You come to training with a West Ham shirt on. You give everything you've got every session. That is before we talk about anything else. That's the number one thing you do. And then anything that comes after that, great. But if you're not doing that one thing, don't bother. And it's just done, isn't it? Like the apathy has spread to the fans from the players, not the other way around. Because there was genuine, albeit there was a bit of excitement among a reasonable amount of the fan base at the beginning of the season that the change they were after had come, wasn't there?
Yeah. I think we've reached a stage in the season now where it's a lack of hunger. I think there are a number of players in that squad that know that they're not going to be here next season. And they know we're not going to go down. And I think a lot of them are just like, wow, what's the point? What's the point? It's a cliche, but they're on the beach. They literally go on the beach. They've got nothing to play for.
September though is a bit much, isn't it?
yeah, true. But like, I think what we're seeing now, where I think a lot of what happened under Lopetegui was tactical, and I think it was a lack of hunger or anything like that. It was tactical.
Yeah, probably. I'll give you that. Yeah.
But what we've seen over the last 6 games, where there's late goals going in, and they're switching off. They're not, huffing and puffing against the worst team in Premier League history in Southampton, and then being punished for it right at the end, and deservedly so being punished for it. They're just not hungry for it. There's a lot of players in that squad. There will be a few that are, but you need all of the players hungry for it. And there'll be a lot of players that know they're not going to be here. They know they're not. They know they don't even need to play for their West Ham future because they know they're out the door. Whether their contract's up or whether they've already told their agent to go and find another club. There'll be a lot of players there just going, well, what's the point? I'm not going to be here in 2 months.
I don't want to get injured. Yeah.
I don't want to get injured. I want to have a good holiday with my family, and then I'm going to speak to my agent. I'm going to get a nice big money move somewhere else, whether it's abroad or to another Premier League team. And I think that's the reality of it. And it says a lot that the one player that we know will definitely be here in Todibo, because us staying up has now activated the obligation to buy, was the one that came out and said, if we stick with Graham Potter, we're going to have a really good season next year. And it's like, well, of course you're saying that because you know you're staying. You've got to try and get the fans on board, but the rest, not a peep, not a single peep out the rest. And yeah, it's going to start supporting the under-18s trophy winners. Good luck to them.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, the under-18s Premier League title win. Huge achievement that is. Listen, we'll move on. We'll talk in a bit more detail. Tottenham, of course, coming up at the weekend. So we'll have an opposition for you later on this week. We got to finish above them, mate. I mean, I do care. It's just classic West Ham that they have had like a historically catastrophic season, Tottenham Hotspur, and we still can't finish above them. All we had to do was have a mediocre to bad season, and we still finish above Tottenham, and we couldn't even do that.
Yeah, we'll get onto that one because I have a theory about what's going to happen on Sunday. But yeah,
all right, good. We'll do that one in a minute. Don't forget to follow us on socials at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. We are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Search for We Are West Ham Podcast on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, if you want the podcast 24 hours earlier than everyone else and you want ad-free listening, then for a very small amount of money every month, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/WeAreWestHamPodcast if you want to support me and James and what we do and keep the podcast as a going concern. I'm sort of in a weird way, Jonesy. You'd almost half sort of if everyone just pulled there. Thanks very much, by the way, to everyone who has supported on Patreon so far, has become a member. Very appreciative indeed are James and I. But you're also we're almost in that position, James, where I'm like, God, if everyone just pulls out their subscription money, then we'll be able to have I'll be able to have an excuse to never have to watch West Ham United ever again. But while you guys aren't doing that and you're still chipping in couple of quid a month on Patreon, which we hugely appreciate. I can rest assured being Jonesy will continue to put ourselves through the galling, horrible pain and misery that is watching West Ham United week in, week out. Look, follow us on socials, become a Patreon member if you fancy it, and stay with us. We'll have a little bit more of a chat about the Brighton game next, the state of the club generally, and a quick look ahead to that Tottenham game next weekend. Right, coming in, Jonesy. What do you want to talk about? Do you want to break the game down a little bit more? Is there anything? I mean, I think what we should do, we should just say a few well done. So you're right to call on the under-18s there. Fair play. And for anyone, for some reason they don't know, we're mathematically safe now because of Ipswich's defeat at Newcastle. So I mean, all three Premier League teams have gone down with 4 games to spare for the first time in Premier League history, James, which I will say backs up my statement I said to you a few weeks ago that I think you called me boring for believing in when I said the Premier League's getting more and more predictable. And I can guarantee you already that Leeds and Burnley are going down from the Premier League next season. It's very much how it's becoming now. So, but I think we should call out a couple of positive things, Jonesy. And I say it time and time again, and I was thinking about it at the weekend. I know the rumours keep going around that Everton want Tomas Soucek, that David Moyes wants a reunion up there. And apparently I read something the other day that he was initially keen on Soufal, but his interest has cooled down. That's quite a difficult word to say, cooled down somewhat. West Ham United would be utterly crazy to let Tomas Soucek leave for Everton this summer. I'm not saying he's the future of West Ham. I'm not saying he's the most talented, gifted footballer in our squad by any stretch. But the way he played at the weekend, he hit the bar, he scores the goal again. Seriously, I'm not saying he's Lionel Messi or he's Dimitri Payet. I'm not saying that. That is a man you want in your squad, whatever happens next season. Whatever, I know he might not be a Graham Potter style of player, but if you don't want a player in your squad who can come on, be a threat going forward, and he's going to give his absolutely everything for the team, then there is no point. Of all the people I would not let go, it's Jared Bowen and Tomas Soucek. Seriously, that sounds wild, and for obviously hugely different reasons. And yeah, Somerville probably. I like the look of him beginning of the season. But seriously, other than that, James, I just he still cares. You can see he still cares, and he's got quality. It might not be like in your face mercurial quality, but you need to be positionally outstanding to score all the goals he scores. When you are as ungainly and as slow and whatever as he is, you still get those numbers goals wise. That shows how good of a football brain he's got. So have you got anything to add on that? I just want to give a big shout out to Soucek, because again, in a very, very bleak season, he's doing an awful lot of silver lining. He's got a lot of silver lining weight on his shoulders, him and Jared.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing selling him, and there's another thing selling him to David Moyes' Everton, because we know what he's capable of in this team, and we also know what he's capable of in a David Moyes team.
Yeah,
and we know what to expect from Everton next year. Like, he's already had a very, very big impact there since he took over. So we know what to expect from Everton next year. They'll be in and amongst it. We want to be in amongst it. Maybe not in Europe, but they'll be mid-table, maybe even going for Europe. I don't know.
It would be funny.
Thing is, everyone people might be like, "Nah, I don't believe you." So no one believed us, and look what we ended up going on and doing. Yeah. So, like, I would not be surprised if they were competing in the top 8. I wouldn't be surprised. They definitely will if they bring in Tomas Soucek, because they'll have those goals from midfield. He's got 40 goals from midfield for us in all competitions. Ridiculous.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So,
yeah. What a record that is.
It would be mental to get rid of him anyway, knowing what he offers the team. Yeah. But then just to sell him to a club where you just know he's going to be a success under a manager who has already made him a success in England, and like, you just want to go and be better somewhere else, Tom.
Yeah.
Go on. I'll make sure you score a couple against us. Home and away.
Guaranteed 3 goals.
Yeah, he will, and there'll be last-minute winners probably as well. So, I will wash my hands of the club if they had sold him to Everton. Like, I'll be annoyed if they sold him. I need a thesaurus, but I will not be a very happy man if he went to Everton. I just think it would be mental, and I don't think he wants to leave anyway. I don't think he'd be. The only way he leaves if Graham Potter goes, mate, you're not going to be in the start 11 every week. Up to you, and you might be like, I'm not sure, but I don't think he'd want to leave.
Anyway.
He's already said that he loves it in London. His kids are starting school in London. Like,
right, yeah.
I think his daughter. I think his firstborn arrived not long after he joined the club. So she's 5 years old now, going to school. At that age, you don't really want to, take him out of school and then put him into a new school somewhere else. So his priority, no doubt,
as well.
His priority, no doubt, would be want to stay in London.
Really, I'd go if I was him. The personal thing aside, but I mean, the younger you move a kid's school, the better. Surely it's better doing it then than like 10 when they're a bit more sentient and know what's going on, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just coming from a father of a 5-year-old who's just started school, going, that'd be a nightmare.
Yeah,
he's doing really well at school. Doing really well at school. The last thing I want to do now is pull him out and put him into another one, because he's just made a lot of new friends. He knows the teachers, loves the teachers, just got used to the environment, and then suddenly you got to go and do it all over again now, mate, somewhere else.
Yeah. Would you do it for 20 grand a week extra?
20 grand a week extra. The thing is, you say that as like I'm already on 25 grand a week, and now 20 grand a week might be quite good.
Not far off though, is it?
YouTube does pay well, to be fair.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I probably wouldn't do it. No.
You wouldn't do it, right? No. Yeah, of course. Yeah, nice one. If I was him, I'd go, mate. I think it's that sinking ship mentality. I think he's not going to be, if Potter stays, which obviously he probably will. He's not going to be a first choice, despite continued efforts to get him out of the team, and then managers realise actually we really need him. He's really good. He's the only one who cares and can score. I'd go. I think it'd be nice. It'd be a great time to join Everton. He's worked under Moyes already. He's still got a few decent years left in him. His move to West Ham's only 15 million quid. The money is about 60-ish, 60 to 65 a week, I think, was the original contract he signed. I can't remember off the top of my head if he signed a new one or not since.
Yeah, I think he has.
Yeah, but yeah, Everton will cough up a few quid for him. You get a big payday. He's probably, so what my point is, you get another pay rise. You get a 3-year deal, probably take him till he's 33. What a time to join Everton. Another experience in English football. Join up with Moyes. If I was him, and I was his agent, I'd be saying, "Get out of there, mate. Get out of there," because God knows what West Ham's going to look like next season.
I suppose it depends where the problems lie within the club,
right?
In terms of what are we actually seeing here? Is this a group of players that genuinely just don't care and are refusing to or struggling to get on board with Graham Potter?
Yeah.
Or is it just the fact that everyone's just switched off because they just need a holiday and they've had enough because they've got nothing to play for, like I mentioned earlier? Is it purely that, or are there a few bad apples in there? If it is a case of there's a little bit of a dressing room revolt and the atmosphere is not really good at training, and then I would understand a lot of players, not just Soucek, a lot of players going, "Get me out of it." But if it is just a case of they're tired, they've got nothing to play for, the hunger's not quite there as a result, and he's but they all have playing for Graham Potter, and it's just not really working at the moment for whatever reason, then you go, okay, well, maybe he'd want to stay. So it all depends on really what the issue actually is at the club. Is it a problem with a few players there? Are players refusing to play for Graham Potter, or is it just something a little bit more simple as just not quite clicking at the moment, and they need the summer to fix it?
But I just can't. He doesn't play in a Potter team, do you think?
Well,
as in, once
long term,
Potter's got his own players, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I think he guarantees himself a couple of seasons at least of first 11 football if he goes to Everton.
Yeah,
maybe
bit
more money. Work with a manager who appreciates his style. He'd always be first name on the team sheet under Moyes, wouldn't he? Just like Fellaini used to be for Moyes at Everton and Man United.
Yeah, maybe. But I wonder whether Graham Potter might be looking at him going, well, he's not the typical type of midfielder that I would normally go for in a midfield. But he's showing me at the moment that he can be as effective in my system and score goals in my system. And he offers my system as something a little bit different that perhaps I've not had in the past that actually I quite like to have. Yeah. And it's a good option to have. So I wonder whether Graham Potter might be looking at it, given the goals that he's put up already this season, and going, well, actually, I quite like having him in the team. It's something that I'm not used to, but I like.
You could be right, James. Right, patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast is where you want to go if you want to sign up for early access. You get the podcast a day before everyone else and ad-free listening. Patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast, as I mentioned. Paul, who's been a Patreon for a while, sent us a really interesting message in the week, James. It was after the Brighton game. So before anyone thinks I'm just pumping my Moyes propaganda into everyone's ears again, this is from Paul on Patreon. Moyes' last 20 matches, 5 wins, 7 draws, 22 points, 1.1 points per game. Lopetegui actually somehow improved on that by more luck than good planning and had 23 points in his 20 games in charge at 1.15 points per game. While so far, Potter is languishing behind and needs 3 wins and a draw out of his next 6 matches to simply match Lopetegui. I don't see it happening, but I also can't see him leaving or us having the summer window needed to improve on it. which means we'll be looking at another 13th to 17th place finish again next year. With an ageing squad, as James said, this is going to be a 3-window, 2-year period to rectify. And to put Potter's start into perspective, this is the points per game of his predecessors, right? So just a reminder, he doesn't actually say in there what Potter's is, but it's lower than David Moyes' 1.1 points per game, which, by the way, was from Moyes' last 20 games. So obviously, if you look at Moyes' whole spell, it would have been much better. But Potter's is lower than 1.1 at the moment. David Moyes, his whole time at the club was 1.53 points per game. Sam Allardyce was 1.43. Alan Kirbishley was 1.38. Slaven Bilic was 1.41. Memo Pellegrini was 1.30. Avram Grant 1.21. And Gianfranco Zola 1.13. Oh, Paul does say Potter is sitting at 0.93 points per game so far, having failed to beat some of the worst teams in Premier League history, statistically speaking. Thanks for the message, Paul. I know you've sent a few in recently that we haven't managed to get to, so we do appreciate it, Paul at Patreon there. What do you make of all that, James?
Yeah, he makes some good points. I'm still of the view that I don't think we can read too much into Graham Potter until he's got his own players. I know a lot of people are looking at what's his face at Wolves game, well, it ain't his squad, and he's already putting up trees there, and they've won 6 in a row and stuff like that. And I take that on board. But you've got, like I said last week, he's inherited 2 teams on the decline, and he's not just inherited players that aren't his, he's also inherited that mentality and that sort of downward spiral in terms of morale and all the rest of it. Players that have been coached one way and then coached another way and now been coached another way again in such a short space of time. So I don't think it's easy for Graham Potter. That's why I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt at the moment. Going, okay, it should be better, and you'd expect it to be better against teams like Southampton. You'd expect us to be holding on to leads with 5 minutes to go and not losing. But I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt because of those reasons. Now, I know I said last week that it's probably a 2-window job, 2 or 3 window job. But you'd still like to think that after one summer window, with a lot of players coming in, a lot of players coming out, that there will be a marked improvement on this season, next season. That's not to say that we're going to start competing for it in the top 8 and stuff like that, but a marked improvement. Yeah. If we get that, then that's fine. And you go again in January, and then we see what happens. But yeah, I take that on board. But I think again, it's not like he's come in and this is his first full season in charge, and he oversaw that £150 million spent last year, and he was the guy that replaced David Moyes. Yeah. What happened between him coming in and David Moyes leaving was a lot of money spent, and then just a tactical disaster class. Yeah. And
on players who are just
who knows
what system they fit.
Yeah, and it's just like he's come in and inherited that. And I know he didn't want to mention all the positives. Like, he has made improvements in certain areas, defensive being the one being the main one.
But on Lopetegui, innit? Like,
yes,
they've sort of made it less abjectly awful than it was before. It's not like a defensive powerhouse now, is it?
No, of course. We've only kept 2 clean sheets under him, but
he's just undone the brutal.
But he's made sure that we're not getting battered 3 or 4-0. Now under Lopetegui, we go to Anfield and we lose 5-1, but instead we almost draw the game 1-0. Yeah. So yeah, I understand the point, but I'm not pointing any fingers at Graham Potter just yet.
No, fine. Right, couple of interesting ones here, Jonesy. This is more on the community chat. On Patreon, Jim Odie, we love Jim, just trying to be a little bit positive. How many late goals are we going to let in this season? It's bad enough 1, but 2. I thought we were going to get something out of that game, but at least we're safe for another season, and we did score 2 goals away from home. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, Paul just replied then and said, "I'm about done. It is the hope that kills you." And there's some more interesting stats, as I was saying, about Lopetegui and Graham Potter. Ben Orr as well, saying on some positive news, West Ham are second in the attendance table for this season. Wahey, get in, come on, your irons, well played. Michael Wood, we've sort of done this before, Jonesy, but I think it's worth perhaps revisiting, especially with the Tottenham game coming up this weekend. And we'll just do this last question, then we'll have a little look forward to the Tottenham game before we wrap up. Question for the pod. What the hell do we do about the atmosphere and general support at home games? The Bobby Moore lower and around the away supporters is so poor now, which is understandable as the matches have been grim for years. That might be a bit much, Michael. Also, the ground is empty before the second half. Is there anything the club can do, or is it simply because the football is so poor? A couple of replies in from, or quite a few replies in from the from Michael's fellow patrons there, James. But what's your view on it?
We addressed this a few weeks ago, didn't we? The answer definitely isn't sell less popcorn, contrary to what some people say. I bought popcorn for Harrison, but when we went, just quickly.
I know. I spoke. Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah,
did it out of spite, knowing that people look at me going, look at that guy buying popcorn. Where does he think he is? The cinema. Just knew it. I think the football at the moment and the performances and the results of the season we've had is contributing a lot to the atmosphere.
Before you go on, James, Adam Nethersole says exactly that. Get a team that starts scoring and winning games at home. 75% of the moans about the stadium disappear when you're winning 3-0. And he says he's amazed the board and management haven't tried to instigate some improvements. With singing areas, more flags, and we could learn a thing or two from Palace. Firstly, the board have tried. There's, beyond David Sullivan jumping into the crowd and starting to or trying to start a few chants, which I don't think would be a very good idea for him, given how I've seen how a few away fans get treated if they get caught in the home end. Flags, not for me. Absolutely not for me. But I do understand, Newcastle do it quite well. I was at Newcastle a few weeks ago. Don't know, just don't feel very West Ham that. But I would sort of disagree slightly on the old board thing. JDD says, as a fan of the club from abroad who hasn't been to a match but can understand the history and experience, number one has to be it. He just says, he's agreeing with Adam, just saying, it's just the team. The team's got to be the thing. Any low-hanging fruit improvements for supporters need to be made, but it's ultimately the team. And Jim agrees with Adam as well. Agree, if you're winning, it's a totally different atmosphere. Upton Park could be deadly silent if things weren't going so well. So it's not a new issue. Also, some people have always left before the end. It's not something my dad did with me, and I've never done it with mine. There's always a chance. Now, I never used to leave before the end of Upton Park, even though we used to drive. The traffic would be bad anyway, so I think we were in the mindset of it don't really matter. I do every now and then now. Less so. I try not to if I can help it, but I do every now and then now, and I think that's a huge part of it as well, isn't it? The just sort of the lack of a feeling that people feel like they're part of something and they're just going to watch something, and it's just like you pop along, you watch it. I watch most of it, and it's just that. It's just a lack of intensity in the support, I think.
And that comes
not
down
from everyone, by the way, just for large parts of the London Stadium crowd.
It comes down to the fact that the team aren't giving the fans a reason to stay.
Yeah.
And I said this a couple of months ago when we were talking about this, and I got accused by another YouTuber of lying to the people, which was quite funny.
Let's say which one.
I mean, you can if you want. I don't really care.
But, I don't know who it is. Was it your classic, your old school nemesis?
Yeah, the one that always has a pop at me. He always calls me out, bless him.
Yeah, I think it's E20.
Desperate for a rivalry. Desperate for a rivalry.
I've been on his podcast and they were both really pleasant with me.
Anyway. We didn't have this problem when we were beating Seville in the Europa League, and we were finishing sixth in the Premier League, and we were getting to the final, semi-finals in Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just didn't have this problem. Suddenly, it's a problem again. And
do you think it's a two-way street? Like, because at Upton Park, I do feel like sometimes, if the crowd just decided that was enough, they'd start something, the atmosphere would go, and you felt like you were impacting it a bit.
Yeah, and I think it is a two-way street, and I've said it quite a few times that if you want more of an atmosphere, get up and sing then. Like,
yeah.
But I understand that it's a little bit. It's hard. I mean, it's 62,000 fans, and you got one geezer trying to start a song, and no one else is interested. Yeah. I understand that it's not as simple as just get up and sing then. But if you get enough of you trying to do it, then you've got half a chance of actually getting something going.
Yeah.
I've never really been for a long time. I was never really keen on singing sections. Why do you need a singing section? But the more I think about it, in the way that the stadium is, and the way that where there's pockets of loud fans, maybe that is the way to go. Just so that you've always got a little bit of noise there. Because if you've got a singing section, you're in the singing section because you want a single game, win, lose or draw. So if you've got that and you've got that little bit of noise going constantly, and you've got those singles going constantly, then that will naturally be infectious for the rest of the ground.
Yeah, that might be better.
So I'm leaning more towards that at the moment. Going ratchet might be a good solution.
I don't know. You can say to people though, like, how you police that? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
you can't go, right, this is the singing section now. So can you declare on this form whether you are going to sing all the time or not? No, seriously, that is, isn't it?
I agree. I mean, I don't know how you do it.
If so, you're fine to stay. If not, I'm afraid you're going to have to move. It's like, well, I don't want to move. I like my seat. I like my view.
Yeah.
I come for the view. I pay for a band-free ticket or whatever. How do you can't police a singing section, can you? I don't know how you'd.
I don't know how you do it.
I
do.
How many songs are you agreeing to sing per game?
Yeah. Can you send me which one? Send us which ones ahead of time, just so they're happy.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the whole. We should take a leaf out of Palace's book. Like what? They're 20 ultras.
Dress all in black pajamas.
Yeah, come on. Like, not having that. don't want to be anything like
anyone. It really annoys me. Anyone who holds Palace up as this like bastion of fan culture. I'm just like,
just because they're from South London, they drink pale ale. Grow up. Not having it.
I don't know how many of them drink pale ale, mate.
No, I'm not having it. But yeah, nothing to do with Palace. Thank you very much. I don't know what the actual answer is.
We used to be the bastion, didn't we? We used to be. West Ham would always fill up and away, and they'd be singing for 90 minutes. And
now all we do is complain about managers.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough about this. We have done a little bit of this before. You're right. Michael Wood there on Patreon, obviously not been listening to enough of the previous episodes, Jonesy. Listen, stay with us. We'll have a little bit of a chat ahead of Tottenham, and then we'll say goodbye next. Right, Spurs at home then, Jonesy. The battle for 16th, as it appears like it's going to be. If we win, we could go level on points with Manchester United, one above Everton. Depending on their results, we'll leapfrog above Tottenham. We sit on 36 points. They're on 37. They've somehow got a +6 goal difference. The only team but from 12th downwards who's got a positive goal difference is Tottenham. Ours, on the other hand, is -19. The worst of any team outside of the relegated three. Talked about the game. It's a pathetic game, really, isn't it? And like I've said for a long time, I just didn't want West Ham to be reduced again to only whole seasons being or hanging on whether or not we beat Tottenham home and away, which is what it used to be like. And I used to love it. Obviously, when we did, it was brilliant because we had nothing else to cheer for. We have become that club again. Not only have we become that club again, they've somehow done it at the same time. But, I mean, obviously I want to win. I do hate Tottenham. But just beating Tottenham for beating Tottenham's sake just doesn't quite have the same thing as it once did, does it?
No, it's not beating them for beating Tottenham's sake. We're beating them so we can finish above them, finish 16th. But I mean, I said last week. I don't even see it as a win. Like if we beat Tottenham, it's not like, hey, yes, beating them, yes. I mean, obviously, I would be delighted if we did, but it's not gonna. It won't make or break my season. The season's still going to be an absolute
Minger.
Minger. It's a good word, Minger. But like I said earlier, I have a theory. Like we've been quite fortunate that it lands slap bang in the middle of their Europa League semi-final.
Yeah.
We saw that they rested other players so they could roll over for Liverpool at Anfield.
Yeah,
so Liverpool
cheers,
win the
nice
title.
one. Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if after the first leg on Thursday it's on a knife edge still, or they're still in it. Then they're making he's resting more players against us because they want to get to the final, don't they? So I've got a theory that we're going to win.
That's the extent of the theory. Yeah.
Based on that, but purely based on that, like if we play a full strength Tottenham team, we lose that game, but we won't be playing a full strength Tottenham team. Simple as that.
Mate, even their full strength is 3 pence, isn't it?
And I genuinely believe that we will win the game, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, who knows? The only slight thing is obviously they got Bodo Glimt. I don't want to do them a disservice, but Bodo Glimt at home in the first leg, it wouldn't be like beyond the realms of possibility for them to put 3 or 4 past them and be able to at least have a couple of their semi-first team players.
Bodo Glimt are a good side, mate. They battered Roma 7-1. Like was it last season?
Yeah,
good side.
Yeah,
good side.
To be fair though, one thing I would say is they're not even top of the Norwegian league. Do you know what I mean? To be fair, weird. Their season has only had 4 games. They're only 4 games in, and they are second, but they are 2 points behind Brann at the moment, who've actually played a game more than them. So I take it back. If they win their game in hand,
yeah,
they will be top. They will be top of the Norwegian league.
They will be looking at Tottenham going, they're not even top of the Premier League. They're 16th in the Premier League. We should be battering this lot. So, if anything, they're better than Tottenham.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I mean, they did beat Lazio on pens in the quarterfinals,
exactly.
which is no mean feat, of course. Overcame Olympiacos, didn't they, in the round before that? So, yeah, fair play to them. Fingers crossed that they give a good account of themselves in London. Viva Bodo is all I'll say. And then, and Tottenham rest all their players. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really finding it hard to predict West Ham wins at the moment. Really interesting chat with Tom Phillips, the Brighton content creator who had last week the opposition view talking about Potter and stuff. And even then, I was like, I'll be forgettable, it'll be pants. There was more goals than I was expecting. It was a bit more entertaining, but of course, West Ham came out on the wrong end of it. Look, that's it from me and Jonesy for this week. We'll have an opposition view later on in the week ahead of that Tottenham game on Sunday afternoon at London Stadium, 2 p.m. Kickoff, that one. Trying to get revenge for earlier in the season when they gave us a right old hiding at their place, and I was pretty disappointed and despondent after that. I haven't really cheered up since. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Thanks for being patient with us for the short one last week. Giving you a bit more of a chunky one this time round. Best part of an hour to react to that 3-2 defeat at Brighton and all other things West Ham United. Let us know what you think in the comments on socials or in the DMs, or of course in the community chat or privately on patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast. If you fancy signing up there for just a couple of quid a month, it supports me and James, helps keep the podcast going, and in return you get your podcast a day before everyone else, and you get ad-free listening as well. Follow us on socials as well at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter, We Are West Ham Pod on Instagram, and search and subscribe to the YouTube channel at We Are West Ham Podcast over there for all your video clips as well. Thank you very much for listening or watching, everybody. West Ham United apparently are still massive, doing their level best to change people's opinions on that on the pitch. Up the Hammers, Tottenham at home this Sunday. One last thing to get excited about this season before we get on the beach, just like the players have been doing for the last few weeks. Thanks for listening, everyone. Opposition review later this week. Me and James will be back early next week to review to that Tottenham game. See ya.